Ya ma uda was goody to the goddess and the gods and was popping to my people. Nayamo te da, nayada te da. Peace to the family, and well, like we always do about this time. So let's get situated, get rid of the glare, and this is officially the last week of my raggedy setup. Just so we clear, Yahoo, Miss Franklin. So just so we clear, I got a whole new backdrop. I just haven't learned how to put it up yet. So I'll be doing I'm setting up the office at home, so I will be doing stuff from here a lot of times now. And so I'm gonna hook it up for y'all and give me a nice little camera setup and all that. But until then, you gotta deal with me one more week in the dungeon. But this gonna be a good one. Very informational. But I'm gonna play some finna give y'all some sneak previews of some things. Stay on my business, stay on my business. Hold on. Wait, how do I get to I don't know how to do it now. How do I get to my okay, there we go. Downloads. There we go. All right, so
yes. Welcome. It is he that sits beneath that general, right? All I ever wanted was the things that I never had. All I have edition. All I ever wanted was the things that I never had. All I have edition. All I ever wanted was the things that I never had. All I have edition.
while I get situated.
The things that I never had. All I have edition. All I ever wanted was the things that I never had. Childhood slightly bad, Lord mom confused dad. Good version of Breaking Bad, no meth labs, just crack bags. Since high school was moving fast, skipping class, chasing cash. Y'all don't even know the half. Let me break it down to taste. Down to do whatever it takes. Duncan Hines, need the case. Some might call it self-hate, but I'm in love with street fame. Good weed, better cane, lusting for that rap game. Product of the street thing, cause that's the only way I know. Statistics say I die broke unless I learn to sell my soul. Felonies, I got several. Cases, I got plenty of them. Lust, it cost me 7 years and I ain't even see it coming. All I ever wanted was the things that I never had.
Give y'all a preview. The Project 7 is done, and it will be dropping next month. So y'all get a little sneak preview tonight. The 7 Deadly Sins. The first one, that was lust.
Gluttony is an inordinate desire to consume more than that which one requires. We see that every day where we from. I was only 19, remember it like yesterday. Took the pistol from my waist, placed it in my cousin's face. Crazy how the reaper waits, patiently to seal your fate. Look at how we took the bait, look at what we did for cake. Look at how we lied.
Hold on, Kareem. Now you speaking my language. Hold on. You say you want to do what? You say you want to do what, Kareem? We take this debate thing serious nowadays. If you want a shot at the title, is that what you saying? You got to come on with it. This what I debate for nowadays. So if that's what you want, let me flip this for you, my dude. If that's what you want, you gonna have to come get it. Hey, yeah, I don't know nothing about fan base. I just be forgetting, man. Y'all, if y'all hit me up during the daytime, I don't be doing shit. Then I just forget, cause I never been on fan base before, so I be forgetting about it. Yeah, I just had a hold on. When what time y'all be in there? I know y'all had scheduled times where y'all do shit at a certain time and all that. So I don't be knowing. That's why I say y'all just gotta let me know. What's tomorrow? I'll be at tomorrow is Wednesday. Yep. I'll be at work from 3 to 8. I mean, no, what I'm talking about from 7 to 3. What the fuck I'm talking about? From 7 to 3, I'll be free to lock in and we could talk about whatever. Yeah, 7 to 3 tomorrow. Then we can do whatever. The radio station closed until next month. So until the radio station closed for like a month. So I'll be up here. I got don't y'all do that? Y'all still do the wisdom stuff on Wednesday? Tomorrow, Wednesday, I got some wisdom. I got some Wednesday wisdom. Let me send these things out real quick. My fault, y'all. Yeah, but I got some Wednesday wisdom. Let's do it. I'm supposed to be on down south. What's going on, Kim folk? I'm just not getting it started, man. Hey, I got this. Hold on, man. I was giving y'all a sneak preview, man. I did the 7 deadly sins. I just played the first one.
Gluttony is an inordinate desire to consume more than that which one requires. We see that every day where we from.
I was only 19, remember it like yesterday. Took the pistol from my waist, placed it in my cousin's face. Crazy how the reaper waits, patiently to seal your fate. Look at how we took the bait, look at what we did for cake. Look at how we lie and tell ourselves about our family. Always been obsessed with mob living like I'm Lansky. This is how your fantasy gets split up like it's biblical. We know it's really gluttony, but we lie like it's the principles. This is my confessionals, mentally been messed up. Been running my whole life and still I feel I cannot catch up. All I know is pressure, bust the pipes and bring the diamonds out. Both my daddy's dead, I probably could have took the finer route. All about this fetish for them dead guys on greenbacks. King made us broke again. Now how the fuck he dreamed that? Obama bought the coke again. I guess that's where the dream at. Now rappers getting their nails painted and rocking fucking Borettes. This is where the code switch. This is where the road dips. This is where the record scratch and this is where the game glitch. I don't want no part of this. It's time for me to part from this. Women yelling, suck my dick in minutes, extra feminine. They about to bring the famine in. You better get your famine in. New world order, this world will never be the same again. They trying to bring the demons in. I'm speaking to the hearts of men. They want to dumb us down so we don't activate this melanin.
Is we thumb up in it or thumb down in it down south? What we doing, man? Thumb up or thumb down? I did 7 deadly sins. So each song is me talking about that particular sin. Now, I wanted to piggyback off of what we was talking about the other night. Because I just don't think a lot of times it's like that Mr. Miyagi shit where I be having a motherfucker go sweep and hang the coat up and shit like that, and the motherfucker like, what do this got to do with anything? And then later on, you get to hanging the coat up and sweeping and whooping some ass. That's how I be trying to put this information out there. Like a lot of stuff we do, we just don't understand the origins of what we doing. And so I comparisons will just hit me out the blue. I was watching I told you I was watching Spartacus. Me and Gunn was watching Spartacus. That's my shit, man. This is my second time watching it, and I'm glad I watched it because the first time I ain't catching nowhere near as much shit as I'm catching this time. Maybe I got too much into the story or whatever, but this time I'm catching a lot of shit. And so one of the biggest things I caught is like, if you look at how the Romans kick it and then go to the strip club and tell me you ain't looking at the exact same shit. Look at how the Romans kicked it at their elite private parties and then just go to one of these super high class ass strip clubs, Magic City or King of Diamond or some shit like that. And you're going to see the same shit in there that you seen at the Roman parties. And it's crazy. Like, I never even made the comparison. Like, wait a minute. So, like, we be sitting here thinking, like, we call it our culture, and we look at hip hop and we think it's ours, and we look at the whole way that we get out and we think it's ours. Now, I'm watching these Romans, and bro, the Romans is just like you got rich niggas and poor niggas. When you in the hood in Rome, it's filthy and raggedy and it's filled with crime. When you get to the rich area, it's a lot cleaner, a lot hidey-tidy, snooty, but behind the scenes, they worse than the poor motherfuckers. It's the exact same shit I was sitting there looking at, and I'm like, wait a minute. It's the exact same shit. All of their parties look like our most fire, nastiest strip club look like a Roman after set. Same shit, bro. The only difference is, and that's about to change now too. They was a lot freer with their sexuality than now. So, like, the lines between gay and straight was blurred like a motherfucker back then. I don't even know if it was a such thing. It is. You just like what you like and get it in. So go to look at like Freaknik, that fest we used to call hedonism, spring break, all of that shit is exactly the same shit that the Romans do. And then I got to thinking, like, because I always say that this is modern day Rome. But when you start to make connections like that, then it get a little different. So now look at the Roman the Roman costume. It had red all through it. The primary gang in America is Bloods. So when you see who is having all the conflict out in the streets in Rome, who was keeping shit in order, it was the Roman soldiers in red. Who having a conflict or dictating what's going on in the streets here? You see the Bloods with the red. They both, that gang member Blood and that Roman soldier wearing red got the exact same mentality. They don't honor shit but the establishment, but the organization. The Roman soldier don't honor shit but the organization and do your ass dirty. These blood don't honor shit but the organization and do your ass dirty. It's the same mentality. Now, move over to the Colosseum. Well, we already know the Colosseum concept was stolen from Rome, who stole it from Greece. But let's just look at that for a minute. What was the purpose of the Colosseum? Once you realize what the purpose of the Colosseum was, and it shows you this in every fucking movie, but they really emphasized it in Spartacus. The Colosseum is big business. That's the small side of it. The big side of it is it helps with politics. The Colosseum was a political move. And what they discussing, why they had the same thing. We got the skybox where the rich niggas sit. All the politicians and the people with money sit in a certain area. Okay, they had that too. And what they was discussing, business, politics, and talking about how politics was going, or how what's going on in this Colosseum was going to be able to aid the political platform. Everything was about aiding the political platform. So these in the Colosseum, while they sitting in the skybox, the same thing when you see millionaire politicians and shit sitting in the skybox, millions and millions of dollars get made in these skyboxes at these major events. But let's go a little bit deeper. What purpose does the Colosseum serve? The purpose of the Colosseum initially was they had the initial the games at the Colosseum was initially at the same time during this winter solstice time when all of the bills is getting passed. So while laws is getting made, they schedule major events. That's why right around New Year's you have your Super Bowl and all. This is when all of the major laws during your holiday season is when most of the laws in America get passed. So while you shopping and waiting for all of these sporting events, they're meeting and making real things happen while the people are preoccupied. That was the whole purpose of the Colosseum. It was a distraction for you, entertainment for the common people. And it started with 2 weeks of games and festivities. And for those 2 weeks, while people was having fun, because people was too engulfed in what was going on politically. So for those 2 weeks while people was having fun, that's when everybody met in the back corridors and made shit shake. But you always see, you can't think of one religious movement that didn't have politics attached to it. How do you spread your religion when there's a dominant religion there? See, we think about the old days through a modern time lens. What I mean by that is, right now, anybody could get a religious ideal, go to damn near any city in America, and just start speaking your beliefs. And as long as you're not saying nothing too radical, nobody can really do nothing about it. If people follow you, they follow you. If people believe you, they believe you. If they don't, they don't. Well, it wasn't like that in ancient times. You couldn't just walk down the street and start spewing out your political views or your religious views, you can get your fucking head cut off. All these areas, have court in 1 week? Please pray for me, bro. In all of these religious areas, there's a governed religion already in play. So you got two things going on. If you're an invader, you have to do away with the religion that was there before you got there. If you otherwise, you're going to have to change. You have to change it because you cannot. well, let me go back. I ain't going to say what you cannot do, but let's go back a little bit. There's a concept that starts. Let's just start from an Egyptian standpoint, just for a point of reference. And that's something that we all familiar with, so it's easier to talk about that, to start from that space. So now what I'm saying is there's a belief system that you're born into in ancient Egypt. You got Osiris, Horus, Isis. You're born into that. So there's an understanding for generations of how things are. Then comes along somebody named Akhenaten, Pharaoh Akhenaten. Now, his ideology completely contradicts generations of tradition. And what he's suggesting is there's only one God, period. And anything else, we're not honoring. And so anybody worshiping anything other than the one God, he closed on all of that. We're not doing that. Now, this makes him historically the most hated pharaoh in Egyptian history. And he only was in power for 13 years and they ran him out of Egypt. Why? Because his ideology contradicted to tradition. But what's my point? This is a strategy. So what happens is this right here. When you conquer people, you have to. We don't understand religion. War boils down to my God versus your God. Because the highest authority is whatever our conceptuality of God is. So we're all in different spaces and pockets conceptualizing this all eternal being, and we're honoring that and paying homage to that. So before we go to war, everybody's praying to their God or gods for power and for victory. So you might say it's a war because we don't like each other, but we're both taking our God to the battlefield because that's what we're praying to and worshiping before we go out there. Now, soon as I win, I'm going to thank my God, because if I prayed to my God before and then I won, the deduction is my God gave me the strength to whoop your ass. So realistically, these wars are really religious wars. So now, once I conquer you, now I have to deal with your thought process as someone who's been conquered. Now I have a way that I'm doing things that I'm implementing on the people. But these people are going to continue to fight me back because why? Because this is about their God. So to them, you are doing crimes against their God. People ain't going to stop fighting you over there. They're never going to stop fighting. So what do you have to do? You have to create something in that space, because if you don't, people are going to never stop rebelling. And as a leader, you want peace over who you conquered so you can conquer somebody else. So you have that process of amalgamation where you got to kind of work them in to a framework of how you want everybody to be. Now, what people figured out is that nothing trumps the conceptuality of a God. So if I can give you a conceptuality of a higher being that is here for you, then you will view your oppression differently. So what the ancient Egyptians did was they basically were saying, when you sit on the throne, you are basically all of the leaders in ancient Egypt were considered like offsprings of the gods. You were directly connected to the gods if you were a Egyptian pharaoh. You weren't just some guy sitting on. No. You were directly connected to the gods, according to what was believed. Now, what this does is, if I think my ruler is just some asshole who wants to dictate, I'm going to fight to the death. But if I think my ruler is literally a descendant of God, then that means whatever that ruler does is a divine act, because they're directly connected to God. So this is what the ancient Egyptians did, which was teach all the people that the rulers were directly connected to God. Now, in come the Greeks. When the Greeks took over the Egyptians, this is the primary problem they face with order. They end up having to move. They moved. They created a city called Alexandria, and it was right on the coastline, so they could get in and up out of that motherfucker if shit got hectic. The short end of the story. So, but what happens is Alexander, upon conquering the Egyptians initially, it's like, today I come in dressed like a barbarian and I conquer all of y'all. Tomorrow, when I walk out to the corridor, I got on my Egyptian pharaoh attire, a white guy, and everybody looking at him like, man, nah. So he tried to put his little funny looking ass in the Egyptian attire and command the same authority now that he was the ruler. And that shit didn't jive. The people didn't receive it. The people were more into shit, kill us. We're not fucking with that. So they had to go on a murder spree and kill and close down everything to try to get some cooperation, because he wasn't getting it, trying to pretend he was one of us. So my point is, this is when we look at our society today, and we look at religion, and we look at all of these different political systems and governments and belief systems, we're taking everything at face value. We're negating the historical backdrop. So, like, when you see a religion in play, it is impossible. Hear me when I tell you. It is impossible to pick up any, I don't care what it is. It's impossible to pick up any religious book and simply just trust what's being placed in there. It is impossible for that to be real. I mean, you could do it if you want to, but there's no way. you're going to pick up the Quran, the Torah, the Bible, the King James, the Old Testament, whatever floats your boat. There's no way you can pick up these books and simply just take them for what you're reading in the book. There's no way. Unless you're okay with being deceived. Now, if the only thing you're trying to do is just find some good tenets and principles to live by, fine. But if you're looking for the truth, you won't find the truth in religious books in the aspect in which you're searching for it. Simply because all religions have a history. And I'm not talking about the stories in the book. I know the stories in the book, they give you a full scale walkthrough, so it would lead you to believe, no. Because these things in these religious books do not add up to what actually happened from a historical standpoint. There's a history behind everything. And it's all politics, because you have to think, what does all of this stem from? It's all conquest. Everybody you looking at that got their own country or continent or whatever the fuck, they killed for it. It's all conquest. How else you gonna get it? Nobody was born with all of this shit. So whatever you see people have, they took it. Whatever a religion had, when you see a religion and the religion is rich, you got to think. They always give you these religious figures that just so peaceful and only about God and only about worship. Okay, how they get so rich? How they spread these things? Because we know since the beginning of time, there's been conquerors. So if religious figures is just peaceful guys, how were they able to survive the conquerors? All we've been hearing about is conquerors since the beginning of time. How did these religious guys survive being conquered? How did no religions get conquered? Y'all just think Islam is Islam and Christianity is Christianity. Why did all of the conquerors just leave religion alone? And then y'all say, well, that's how powerful God is. He ain't gonna let nobody ruin his mission. Y'all say all kind of weird shit. Okay, so then why did he let them do any of it? See, it can't just feel good. It got to make sense too. That's the problem. It can't just feel good. Y'all okay with it feeling good, but it has to make sense too. So we always hear about all of these brutal rulers that spread and did this and spread and did that. Where are the religious guys? How did the religions get spreaded? How did Christianity become the number one religion? We looked at a history of all of these brutal wars. And here's peaceful ass Christianity with Jesus. Love thy neighbor. How? You cannot fall for the stories. You have to go look at, okay, during this time frame, what was really happening? That's where you can get real shit from. So now, let's double back to where we were. If you have the Greeks that then taken over and they realize, okay, we cannot rule these people being the nasty ass weirdos we was yesterday when we conquered them. So now you have a series of political moves that the Greeks start to make because they're realizing the magnitude of what they're up against. So we got these people conquered. We can dominate them, but these people are way fucking smarter than us. You know how hard it is to dominate a people 10 times smarter than you? There's got to be a lot of humble moments in there because you got to literally be taught by the people that you're enslaving, have to literally become your fucking teachers. This is a crazy process that has to happen. So you slowly watch from a historical standpoint, you will slowly watch the Greeks weave themselves into Egyptian culture slowly over centuries. It's a series of moves where they slowly changed the language. They took all the holy scriptures and put them in Greek. All the holy scriptures is in Greek. So now y'all can keep moving, but you can't move unless you move it through us. So you're going to have to teach us what that means. Because everything got to go in our language. All this shit y'all writing, I see y'all got hella writings here. Okay, that's fine. Every last one of them, you got to write it in Greek. All of this shit. So when you conquer people, one of the biggest things you conquer, one of the biggest things you take is the religious relics. Every time a people get conquered, all of they things that they hold dear, people not conquering you just for gold and silver and trinkets. What about the most valuable thing? I keep telling y'all, information is the only real currency. So when people conquer you, the most important thing that they're stealing is the fucking scrolls. What literature do your people have? What do y'all believe? We see y'all got a lot of money. How'd y'all get it? Whatever is in these teachings had to lead to all of whatever y'all got. So what we're going to do is get the teachings of your people. Now, I'm going to take my smartest people and they're going to spend around the clock breaking that shit down. They're going to keep torturing you motherfuckers to one of y'all caves. The one that caved, we're going to drag him in the back and he going to tell us what all this shit means. And then we're going to fuck up another one until he caved and he going to write all this shit down. And every single thing that y'all believe, think, and all of that shit going to get transfigured into the Greek shit. But we going to oversee it. And you going to explain it to me as you breaking it down. And every time I hear something that goes against what I need to have happen, that shit going to get rearranged a little bit. Now, certain things, they would rather die than tamper with. Okay, we won't push the issue on those things, but we can redirect a couple of things. So now you got this whole holy scriptures and all of this shit that we believe. But now we all must learn Greek because all of our teachings are in Greek. Now the original copies, they're taking those. They no longer exist. So our original writings that we can read, they got that. Now, the only way we can stay connected to our teachings is if we learn their language. So now they're going to, around the clock, teach us their language. Once they teach us the language, we'll have access back to our materials, but only in Greek. That's why you always look at all of these books and they say translated by who? The Greeks. Why are the Greeks always translating everything? And nobody asks nobody shit. They just see Greek translation and nobody cares. Why are the Greeks at the forefront of all of the holy translations of all of these scriptures? Because of conquest. So now you have to look at that. That's extremely important because now while the Greeks is in charge of the Africans, they done flip the teachings in the Greek. And then they came up with a language that is half Egyptian, half Greek. Now they took that language and that becomes the primary religious language. And I keep telling y'all, that's called Coptic. Now Coptic is Egyptian, but it's a dumbed down Greek version of Egyptian. And it's made so that the average Greek novice could walk past and hear you and hear what you're talking about. Because remember, Egypt is filled with Greek people now. So the two customs is merging. So if you at the local mart and you Greek and they speak in Coptic, you don't have to speak it, but because you Greek, you can understand it. That was what the Greeks did. They converted the language to a bastardized form. Now, don't that sound familiar to what they did to us in America? Fast forward, they took the language we had and flipped it. And then we got a dumbed down version, and we think we call it Ebonics, but that's not true. The reason why we speak that broken ass Ebonics is because the dumbass white boy that was teaching us, them country ass white boys couldn't talk right either. So that old boy going to get that switch over that boy, they was all fucked up too. So we getting our English from motherfuckers who could barely speak it. Then as society advanced, we still speaking that broken up shit. But now, what I'm saying is, this is a system. And now, the Greeks have figured out how to work it. So now, what else is happening? Keep in mind, these dudes was straight mercenary type motherfuckers. They wasn't cultured. So now when you look around and they tell you the Greeks started all of this different culture shit, they lying. They just don't want to put Africa in the mix. The Greeks got that refined culture out of Egypt. Remember, the Egyptians become their teachers. So now all the fine fabrics that you see they start wearing later on, that wasn't at first. They got that shit out of Egypt. and a good who kind of shows this a little bit is in the movie I just watched, Alexander. Now the movie wasn't that great, but they show you how once Alexander got in touch with that Eastern culture, he didn't want to go back to Greece. And then he started wearing fine fabrics and silks, and his people was looking at him like, fuck wrong with you? He liked merging different cultures. Alexander was into that. So now what you have to understand is this is going to be really important, because here's what happens next. After, so we talk in the Old Testament, the first full composite of the Old Testament is the Septuagint. Now, the Septuagint was commissioned by a dude named Ptolemy Philadelphus. So after Alexander, his general Ptolemy took over. Then Ptolemy II Philadelphus took over. Now, this is the guy who put together the Septuagint. Now, you got to think about this. I don't want to get into all the details because it'll sidetrack us, but on the outward layer, just think about this. You don't have a full-blown Christian religion. You got teachings, because this Christian thing starts out as philosophy, and it merges into something else. But it starts out, they used to call it Greek philosophy, and they're saying, so now, you got Plato, Socrates, and all of these Greek philosophers. So now, Plato is being asked his thoughts on this thing. And then Plato says, this is later on down the line, Plato says, you have to start generations ahead. And then you have to take your rulers and make them connected to God. And so generations later, it'll sink in, and the people won't be worshiping the ruler. They'll be worshiping the descendant of God. They'll be less likely to rebel. Now, they will give the credit of that to Plato. Now, you got two scenarios. One scenario is Plato never existed. And the second scenario is, if he did, he admittedly spent about 20 years studying in Egypt, in Alexandria. So once again, these people study under our people, then bring what they learned back to the Western world and look like somebody who thought of something. No, these are conceptualities you were taught somewhere else in a different culture, and you just brought them back to your culture, which is fine. All people do it, but they actually be giving these people the credit for it. So now the thing is, what I'm trying to get y'all to see is this is a strategy that the Greeks picked up while studying under the Egyptians. They realized, they looked at how well the Egyptian people had their people in line. Wasn't no rebellion, wasn't no buck in the system. Nobody was trying to not be Egyptian. They were thriving. They were educating the world. They had big temples that was all spiritual, and nobody challenged it. So they're trying to figure out, how can we do this? Now they're looking at the Egyptians as people who, like, y'all was too easy for us to conquer. Y'all ain't that as smart as we thought. But they can't figure out how these motherfuckers, like, how they was able to do it. So after all of these, we talking a couple hundred years, 300-400 years studying under the Egyptians. The matter of fact, we talking 300 years. So, because we got Alexander invaded in 326. No, at 332. I believe it was 332 he invaded. So you got there until Rome took over in 30 BC. Rome took over. So that's 300 years the Greeks was in Egypt controlling it. You know how much shit you can learn in 300 years? So now what happens is, now at this point, for 300 years, the Greeks, because they control Egypt, they become the forerunners of the world in customs, education, style, and all of that, class, and all of that shit that they're known for, culture, the fine arts, all of that shit. They all got it from when they were in Egypt. But because they control Egypt that was all under a Greek flag. So outwardly to the world, this was the Greek custom and culture because they was in control. So Greece got the credit for bringing refinement and culture and fine art to the world. So as Rome watching it from the sideline, because Rome and Greece have always had a thing against each other. So the Romans, now the Romans is the little dirty niggas. and Greece then blew up. But the Romans can fight their ass off. So now Rome and Greece have a series of wars. And this is where you officially start to get this is where you officially get your Jews from. Because it's nothing but the offspring of these Greeks and these Romans. The Greco-Roman child is the goddamn Jew. But we ain't gonna get into all of that. But because you got to look at when the word comes around. But either way it go. So now, when Rome conquers Greece, it's like, y'all from the streets, we call it hitting a lick. What does life turn into if today I'm just working with a couple ounces? Me and 5 of my guys, we go hit the brick man and get 50 bricks, 100 bricks. I just conquered whole new territory. Now, if you from the streets, I just use that analogy because we from the streets. But if yesterday I had a couple ounces and I wake up tomorrow with 100 bricks. That is like little broke ass Rome finally get their chance to bang with the big guys and wake up tomorrow and they have conquered the biggest monster on the planet. Everybody's terrified of Greece. Greece has got the split. Everybody. And now the Romans whoop that ass. You wake up the same way the Greeks idolized the Egyptians, but found themselves in charge of them. The Romans idolized the Greeks and found themselves in charge of them. So now, this is what happens when you see when you see Rome, when you watch movies now and you see the Romans, they got these silk robes on and they sipping fine wine and everybody all bougie and shit like that, but they brutal as fuck, and every party they have is an orgy. Like I said, that's the same shit you see nowadays, fast forward. But Rome takes over Greece. Now, a lot of people have a problem with this because it was like the Romans was killing Christians. So how could they be? You just got to know the way it happened historically. So this is all politics. Now, the Christians is growing, but there's a reason behind the Christians growing, because they got a literature that speaks of a savior who gonna come through and lead them out for Roman rule. Now, Romans rule with an iron fist. So when the Romans come on the scene, the Romans is on some get out and lay down shit. And they brutal as fuck. So the Romans got a thing where they took the same strategy from the Greeks. The figurehead of the Roman religion, they had to deify. They had to make a god. And they did it through Caesar. You got to look at Titus Caesar. And I'm going to do a whole thing on this because I just found this out in the last couple of days, and this shit heavy. I'm not going to do it today, but I'm going to do a breakdown for y'all on who Jesus really is, who they pattern the character off of. And you will hear a lot of people say, even I say, that they stole it from Egypt. They didn't. They stole the framework, the outward ideology, but the actual, when you're looking at the things that they say he did, the traits and the characteristics, there's an actual man, Caesar, who they got it from, Flavius Titus Caesar. And I'm gonna break down the Flavian's dynasty, and I'm gonna show you how they had their hand all in the Bible, and what it just shows you is these are schemes of men to stay in power. All of these religious books, all these religious characters, these are men coming up with schemes to stay in power. And they looking at the blueprint of their predecessor and figuring out, how can I do it better than the last motherfucker did? That's all you've been looking at. You're not looking at no brand new, none of this shit. It's all recycled from the same mother. So now, but watch this though. So now, what the Romans have to do is the same thing the Greeks did. Look how long they ruled over these people, and look how rich they got. So we're gonna do the same thing. So now you have to take the Roman ruler and turn the Roman ruler into a god. And so there's a series of things that happen, but it's all military. And now, so watch this. When you look at, they say the Gospels is what they call the teachings. They say the teachings is the Gospels. Now, when you look up gospel, it means the Greek word was evangelion. Evangelion. Instead of evangelic, evangelion is what it is. Evangelion. Now, gospel means evangelion, and evangelion means and I got this from biblical hermeticus. Biblical hermetics, is the site I got it from. We got to start doing that, because people will go to Wikipedia or all these bogus ass sites and just tell y'all anything. Start asking people when they give you some information. Start asking them what source you get that from, and to make sure these people ain't just bullshit. So now, gospel, good news of military victory. Gospel in Greek means evangelion, and it means good news of military victory. So when they say the Gospels and connect that to Jesus, this is good news of military victory. Why? Because they're letting you know what is wrapped around this Jesus story. Military shit. Military shit. Now you got to think about it. They're saying things because we don't know history. We letting them get away with certain shit. So they give you a character named Jesus, and he's somebody that's coming through preaching love, and he's gaining momentum with his people, and these people are supposed to be the Jews. Here's the problem with this whole fucking story. If you knew history, instantly you would know they lying. We talking about Palestine is the landmass they talking about. What is modern day Palestine is where they're talking about. It was a fucking war zone at the time. It was heavy war zone. And the Jews was getting stood on heavy. Hell, we talking heavy oppression. They getting stood on and slaughtered. And it was the Flavius guy, him and his dad, that was given the order to go deal with the Jews, and they went and beat the brakes off of them, shut them down, and stole all their religious relics and all kind of shit. So my point is, nobody in Judah back then would have respected some dude coming in talking about love thy neighbor and turn the other cheek and all that shit. No, these people are slaughtering us. Nobody wouldn't have supported dude. Nobody would have gave a fuck about that message the way we getting did right now. So you have to know that accepting this character even contradicts the time frame that you were in, the time frame and the landmass that they was living in. Now you have to understand how Roman people rule things. Romans rule with an iron fist. That's why they was killing the Christians in the beginning. They wasn't even called Christians. The word Christian comes from Christ. Christ is a title. It's not a person. So there had been several Christs. This is a people who are heavily being stood on. So just like you Negroes, y'all folklore tell you that somebody gonna come save you one day. But we're getting wise enough, and now we're starting to teach nobody coming to save us. We got to do it ourselves. Okay, the Jews was going through the same thing then that we're going through now. So when you are an oppressed people, you got to have some positive folklore to say one day we're going to come out of this oppression. And we have a savior that's going to come save us. But the Savior who was going to come save you is the same people that was oppressing you. That's why they put it in the literature, to give you hope. But realistically, this is Caesar laying his claim on becoming a divine leader, becoming divine, because the way they figured out the way you can rule forever is to become a god. So instead of just being a ruler, they figured out a way to make themselves directly connected to God. And that makes ruling the people a lot easier because people don't want to rebel. Now, the whole political system becomes a religious system. This is why you can fast forward now when you look at the Pope has so much power. Why? Because they took politics and hid politics behind religion. And then they lied and told you no church and state. You can't have state without church, and you can't have church without state. They're intertwined. Why you think every nation got a religion behind them, and the religion got a powerful ass army? Because that's how the religion got in power. So now you look at the system they set up, and then you say, okay, they just duplicated the same thing, and then Rome took over. Now, they'll tell you after Rome, the Vikings took over, and there was the fall of Rome. But how can Rome have failed when the number one religious figure on the planet is Rome? The richest religion on the planet is Rome. So how could Rome have fallen? And now, this is why Constantine is so important. Now, this is what I was telling y'all the other day about the donation of Constantine. What Constantine does is he hid the political power behind the papacy. When he made the deal with Sylvester I, he made something called the donation of Constantine. Now, with the donation of Constantine, he was able to take the Pope and push all of the power to the Pope. So outwardly, the Pope looked like he was the powerful figure. Constantine, he just got baptized into the church so that he could be Christian. Now, once he was baptized as a Christian, he could flip the whole empire Christian. But now, it's overnight, it stops all the rebellion he was facing for 100 years plus. We talking for almost 300 years. Rome been in power, warring with the Christians. And through 300 years of warring with the Christians is getting bigger and bigger. They're not winning, but their numbers is getting crazy as fuck. So Constantine looked at it through a different lens. I'm going to end up just like my daddy. My daddy fought him. He got his ass whooped. Everybody go against these people, and they too deep. They don't got no power, but they got numbers. So then he got smart. If he convert to Christianity, overnight he stops all the rebellion. Now, as far as his people go, they never changed anything. So it was easy for his people to see that it was a con job because none of the ceremonial practices got switched to a different day. They kept all the same days. Your Christmas, all of that shit is exactly how the Romans had it. They just called it Saturnalia. Why? Because they're from Saturn. But that's a whole nother lecture. But it was called Saturnalia. So now we got to look at this shit and pay attention to what's really going on. So now once the Romans take over, they don't change anything. They switch it Christian, but they keep all the same worshiping ceremonies. And now there's no sign whatsoever of Constantine actually being Christian. He never went to church. He never did any of that shit. He just said he converted. That's it. They got he built a relic, like a big ass ark, and it's got like different engravings and different look artistic cravings and shit, like carvings and shit like that on it. And this was supposed to be a testament to who he was. He's got all of those other gods that they used to worship before they became Christian on there, but not one thing Christian on there. And that was built after he built his city. He built a city called Constantinople. And that was like, it was like what Alexandria was for Alexander and them. He built one called Constantinople, where it's the Mecca of everything, and he named it after himself. He took all of the conquered. Once they conquer all the information, they put it somewhere and build a library. He built a library at Constantinople, just like they had Alexandria. Same concept. Now, once they got all of your religious writings and teachings, they got 300 years to study everything you believed. And so now, what they figured out was what was driving the Jews was this concept of the Savior. So they kept that going. They kept that Savior concept going and wrote it into the New Testament formula, the format of the New Testament. And like I said, I'm gonna break this whole thing down to y'all, but you're gonna start to see the characteristics, and I'm gonna line them up with all the stuff that they say Jesus did, and I'm gonna show you how a lot of the stuff that they said Jesus did was a metaphor for what Caesar actually did. And we're not talking about Julius Caesar, we're talking about Titus Caesar. Because Caesar is just like Christ, it's a title. So we have to understand that this Christ was prophesied. A Christ, a Savior was prophesied. A liberator of the people was prophesied. So it was easy to sell that to the Jews. They just had to reformat it. And if you look at, that's why a lot of y'all don't even read the scriptures. If you look at Jesus, according to Jesus, they asked him when he was coming back. He gave 3 signs. All 3 of those signs already happened a long time ago. All of Jesus' prophecies happened within 40 years of his death, because they like post-dated it. They went back 40 years in time so that it could cooperate with the time frame. So by the time it actually got to the era where it was at, 40 years later, all of his prophecies had came and went. All the stuff y'all talking about now that Jesus is supposed to do, according to him, it happened already. Because there's an actual person that they was talking about during that time. That's why he said, in my lifetime. In your lifetime, before all of y'all die, y'all gonna see all of this gonna come to pass before y'all die. Shit, you don't think they dead by now? It's been 2,000 years, my nigga. It's literally coming up on the 2,000-year anniversary of Jesus' death, allegedly. Which we need to be careful about that too. That's just, watch out for the year 33. What is this? We got 6. We got about 9 more years. Eesh. Be careful. In 2033, something extreme gonna happen. I promise you. That might be when they hit us with the hologram. But the thing is, up to this point, all you're looking at is war, politics, and conquest. We've been here for an hour. The real God or Jesus has not appeared anywhere in this story, and we to the New Testament. We've been through 3 rulerships in 600 years. Is what we done covered in the last hour. We covered 3 different rulerships in 600 years. And none of this has anything to do with God or Jesus. You just got to think about that. Fuck how you feel. We love Granny. She meant well. But we literally are 600 years into information. We done went through, we can count 4 if you want to. You could say the Persians, the Egyptians, the Greeks, and now we at the Romans. And so far, all we're talking about is white men trying to gain political power. White men trying to control people on an enormous scale. So now we got the Constitution and Constantine. Constantine. What Constantine did was he laid the blueprint for the future of what was to happen. He showed them we can ride this Christianity thing all the way. All we got to do is do it how I just did it. What did he just do? He made Christianity the primary religion. He put politics in the background, and he put religion to the forefront, because religion is, you don't challenge religion. Most people don't challenge it. The common folk don't challenge religion. Most people don't wake up and wonder, is the pastor at church lying? They just accept that that's the pastor and he know. We don't care about his credentials. We don't care about where he went to school at and the fact that the education was Greek. We don't care about none of that. We just figured God appointed him to talk. We have no idea that the pastor had to go to a Greek facility to learn how to teach black people about God. I'll say this again. Your pastor has to go to a Greek learning facility in order to get certified to teach black people about God. Or nowadays, you could just go online and become a pastor. I think you could fill out some shit online and become a pastor like that. You ain't even got to talk to no Greek people. But it's still Greek curriculum, so whatever. But this is extremely fucking important. Why? Because we're taught that these religious books are from God, but that's not possible because of all the politics in play. Like I said, these are all, and now you got to think about it. Okay, so now we naming all of these Greek rulers and powerful men, and so all day long they go to war and they do all of these brave things. And what do they do at night? See, this is the thing. We look at modern day and we know all of our politicians is undercover weirdos, pedophiles, freaks, sex addicts. They see prostitutes and all kind of shit. So let me get this straight. You think people were less freaky in ancient Rome, where there were no laws against none of this shit? There was no laws against prostitution in ancient Rome, just so we clear. So there was absolutely nothing wrong with your senator bonking a prostitute. Like if you walk into a brothel and seen the senator humping on a prostitute, nobody would look at it like, ooh, he bogus. It would just be like, if you walked into a brothel and your senator was getting boinked by a 16-year-old boy from the back, no one would look at that as weird. That was the law in ancient Rome. Nobody would. So those are your religious figures and the people who make your laws. At night, they get to have wild parties and drag and all that type of shit. And in the daytime, they're making religious reform. I'm trying to show y'all, God ain't in these equations no fucking where. Y'all just attached to these things because you scared, but realistically, from a historical standpoint, God has nothing to do with this crap. And it's not even that God is against it. If you're trying to get a real connection to that which is the All Father, the divine existence, the creator of all things, if that's what you're trying to get a connection to, you're not going to get it from the methods you're choosing, is what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with you saying, okay, the only thing I care about is the 10 Commandments. I don't get into the stories. I don't care about none of that. I just follow the 10 Commandments and I live my life to be a good person. Kudos. You won't hear a peep from me. Read your 10 Commandments. Stay the fuck away from the Jesus story. Allahu Akbar, or whatever the fuck it is, y'all. Hail Mary, whatever the fuck you want to do is fine with me. That's not the issue. The issue is y'all get into these stories, think these stories to be actual history, and then you behave as such. You start condemning people because they don't believe in Jesus. You start walking around with crosses and throwing what you think is holy water on people when you're really just getting dirty water on them. Like we get weird in the name of these religious things. And all I'm saying is, anything that's giving you positive principles, take the positive principles. What I'm encouraging y'all to do is stay the fuck away from the fake history, because it'll have you confused about the things that really happen on this planet. Then you won't be able to get a real connection with the All-Father because you've been misguided by planetary mishmash. This is just a concept that was created to rule over men, and it's been working for millenniums. So now, what we have to do is understand that there is a system that has overtaken this planet. And that system is not godly. So how do we think that in a system, and we can see it all over the planet, and we can see that this system is not godly. So how do we think that God's word is ready, available, but hardly anybody's godly? Most people who are into this word of God don't really live by it. So what really is the word of God? Do we know? I don't think we know. We don't know what the fuck God wants. Because you let other men tell you that they have a better relationship. How did they get this? How did men who only care about illicit sex, money, and murder, how did these men get this direct line to what God wants? All the filthiest people on this planet is your only connection to God. How and why? Look at all of these people who are giving you God. Which one of them is right? You just think about it. Name me one person that's outwardly giving you God on a regular basis and is right. Where are the people that got God's message that you don't even have to question? Why is there so much controversy surrounding what's right? Because I'll tell you something. it's the one thing that we never understood, and I just learned this recently. When the Greeks invaded Egypt, the number one commodity in Egypt was education and information. So the Egyptians built all of that off of information. The printing system was the world's first publishing system to publish documented works. The very first publishing company on the planet was in ancient Egypt. And so publishing literary works was big business in Egypt, meaning administering information was a huge business. Now think about being conquered by illiterate people and them seeing that you got all of this off of literacy. Just having information is how y'all got here. So imagine once they took over and understood, imagine what happened to the information. That's all you got to think about. Just have a second, just have a moment with me. Just have a moment with me. These people who are barbaric in nature and don't really understand the importance of books and information, they conquer the Egyptians and they're wondering, what's the key to these people's power? And after years of trying to figure it out, the light bulb come on. These people have so much because they know so much. And the number one commodity around here is they're selling information to each other. So imagine the Greeks first switching the language, forcing the Egyptians to teach them and enlighten them. And then once they got to a level of comprehension, realizing what they were sitting on. Are you kidding me? This is why they took everything, all of that shit, and they hid it. They built a big ass library called Alexandria, built a whole city. This city became the Mecca of the planet. It became the epicenter of the whole planet. And in it was stored the biggest library on the planet, filled with Egyptian manuscripts and African information. And then once they had copied everything into Greek, they burned it down. So that means the scrolls that have the real believings, what people really believed, what people really thought, what people really followed spiritually on this planet. The Africans had enough information to fill up a library. What the fuck was that? What could possibly, we talking pre-book. What the fuck could they have possibly written down in such abundance that they built a library? And then once the illiterate people learned how to read and realized what they had in their library, they photocopied everything and burnt that bitch to the ground like the world will never get this back. This is what people do when they conquer. When the Soviets conquered Hitler now, they found 25 rail carts of information that Hitler had. 25 train rail carts full of information is what Hitler had when What the fuck is in 25 rail carts of information? What the fuck is that? Do y'all know how big? Okay, come on, work with me, people. A train is longer than your fucking house. The house you live in. If you live in a house, one train cart is longer than your house. Just one cart. So essentially, he had 25 houses worth of information. And in a rail cart, just so we clear, that thing about as long as your house and about 10 feet tall. So it was 25 of them full of just books. Huh? And we're talking about the man who built an army to rival the same army that the Romans had. And what was he doing with that army? He was conquering under the guise of what? Religion. What was his whole thing? Religion. The United States of America. They conquer America. And what do they declare? A Christian nation. They also had a Masonic inauguration, but it's a Christian nation. Make that make sense? They started this as a Christian nation, but they had an openly Masonic inauguration. You could look this up. George Washington had on his Masonic apron and everything. It was a ceremony with the sword and the shoulder thing and all of that. So it shows you right there, the inception of this country was founded on two principles, Christianity and a Masonic philosophy. This country was founded on Christianity and a Masonic philosophy. Well, how could you have both? Well, some Masonic lodges have a Bible at the head, some have a Quran, and some have a Torah. They just don't like if you don't believe in a God. You can pick which one, but you got to believe in one of them. So now, this is how they say the meat and potatoes. Because you can't have proper leadership without this. But you can watch how they set this up and then they called it the Constitution. Constantine Constitution. So it was founded on Masonic principles and it's a Christian nation. And they named the law of the land after the guy who made Christianity possible to take over the world with. Constantine made it possible to conquer the world under one religion, which is what most rulers hadn't done before. So now you can see this same framework that you've seen in Rome. You can see the sporting events, the gladiators, down there killing each other just like the football players, tackling, and you getting on teams, you in the Coliseum, and you're doing it for sport. The gladiators give you a real insight to the football player. They are slaves to the establishment for political distraction and political favor. That's what the Coliseum is. That's what the athletes inside the Coliseum are. They are high-paid distractions. Because the people who put it together make way more than the people who risk their life. So if the people who wear suits and organize football make more money than the people who actually play football, then the people who actually play football are just slaves. Now, to y'all, you think it's fancy because they high-priced slaves and they got all the shit that you desire, but they're still slaves. Because they must lie, steal, kill, cheat, and do whatever it takes to keep you under the impression that what you see every Sunday is real on the football field, and what you see every Tuesday night on the court is real. They have to get you to believe that. What would you think if you knew that there was a magnet inside the ball and the rim, and that's why Steph Curry hits all those fucking threes? What would you really think? You wouldn't be a Curry fan. You wouldn't be that excited, now would you? This is Monday, Moon Day. Tuesday, Tia, the God of War. Wednesday is Odin. Thursday is Thor's Day. Friday is Frigga. Saturday is Saturn Day. And Sunday is Sun God Day, to worship the sun. So now, when you look at, I told y'all before, go watch Vikings, and you can see how the Vikings and Christianity stayed at war. And ultimately, the Vikings came out on top. But by the time they came out on top of the Christians, they had already merged so much and basically done their joint cultures to an extent. They were so tolerant of each other, and they start understanding like certain Vikings would have to marry into Christianity to keep their position. So you have Vikings that had to drop their culture, just like people drop their flag and join the other team for political moves. You could fast forward, you could see all through through Africa, you seen African leaders when colonization was hitting heavy. A lot of African leaders were switching to Islam. Islam was becoming the dominant religion. So you could switch to Islam and keep your kingdom. Same thing Constantine did. DQ bunch and get baptized. What you mean by get baptized? I don't know what you mean. So you see the same thing taking place, but it's not how y'all think. Y'all think that there's a spiritual undertone to these things, and there's not. These things are not done from a spiritual standpoint. This is why they put the Pope in the power. They put a religious figurehead in the power, an old ass harmless man who just wave and try to drown your baby if you ain't watching him. Oh, the top bot. Oh yeah. You absolutely right. They got baptized and merged into the culture, but they still held Viking principles and was still Vikings at heart. Now, a lot of them got refined, but the reason why I showed y'all those days of the week, I said that is because what you'll see is some of those days are Viking days, and some of them are Viking deities, and some of them are Roman deities. It shows you the merging of the two cultures. Now, when you look outside and look at your rooftops, you got two kind of rooftops. You got a pyramid, or you got the flat Colosseum style. When you look at the Roman structures of their houses, they was flat and squared on top. Now, when you look at Egypt, which was conquered by the Greeks and the Romans, you see pyramids everywhere. So when you see these things come into your culture, and then you see where they actually came from, you can see that this is just a conquest and then a merging. So when you're getting your Bibles, you have to understand, we talked about this last week. You have 7 council meetings that led to them officially putting together Christianity. But in the backdrop of those 7 council meetings, there's politics going on all over the place. So you have, we talked about this before, during first they had to worry about Arius. So the reason why they even called, and I keep telling y'all, you can't go to Wikipedia for this, but Constantine did not call the Council of Nicaea. A lot of people are going to give Constantine the credit. Constantine didn't really have the power to do it. That's the trick. So the donation of Constantine is the trick. So what the donation of Constantine did was he took Sylvester I, who was a Coptic priest. Now y'all remember the word Coptic is a co-op. That's when the Greeks took over and they switched the language so that they could basically control what the Egyptians was doing. So they switched the Egyptian language to Coptic, which is a combination of Greece and Egyptian. So now, once they switched the language and got a better hold of the situation, now they got a communicational base. They shut down all the temples, so there's no real religious practice going on. Now, that's what happened in Greece. Now, what the Romans did, like I say, we fast forward to Constantine, and so now what Constantine does is he converts everybody and kills the war part. So now he instantly, his daddy couldn't unify Rome. The reason why they call him Constantine Great, because he unified Rome. Now, once he unified Rome, that's all under one Roman ideology. Now, you can practice Christianity, but you have to deify the Roman leader. So all Roman leaders, just like Egyptian leaders and just like the Greek leaders, became descendants of God. That's how they got the people to follow. So this is why Caesar was so highly respected. They said Caesar was directly related to a god. Now, all of these are just political control methods. That's it. There's no divine nothing at play. This is all just to get shit popping. Now, Sylvester I, the Coptic priest, calls the Council of Nicaea. Why? Because they had a brother named Arius that was from Alexandria, Egypt, who was about to blow the lid off the whole thing. They were trying to take this, they had already took this Serapis guy and was pushing Serapis as the prime deity. So you had something called Serapian worship. So you had the temple of Serapis and all of this. You had Serapian worship. So now when the Romans took over, they was still worshiping Serapis and other deities. They had multiple things they was worshiping. So now what happens is they're trying to get this Arius come through and says, no, that Serapis shit ain't gonna fly. So Arius was snitching, saying that Serapis is not really, Serapis is just a man. He is not really the son of God. So this Christ figure that y'all trying to put together, that ain't real. So now Arius start getting traction and get a whole movement called Arianism. Now, if the Nazis only knew that being an Aryan means you's a brother from Egypt that don't like you lying about God, I don't think they would claim they Aryans. But that's what the real Aryanism is, was a brother from Egypt who was about to blow the lid on the whole Jesus scam. So what happens is they had to call this council meeting to get all of the figureheads together and agree upon the divine nature of Jesus, this Christ figure. Is this Christ figure man and God? Is he just a man? Does he have two natures, half God, half man? All of that bullshit. Now you got the original Trinity, Father, Mother, Son. They're trying to take the black father, black mother, black son. They want to replace it with the white son. So now you got the father, mother, and the white boy. So they have the meeting, and this is what gets pushed in. This is why they're calling Constantine great, because he set up the framework that would allow them to have 6 more council meetings until they put Christianity into a completely Greco-Roman framework, which means they got rid of Osiris, who was the father, and switched it. No, I take that back. They kept Osiris the father. They switched the son to Serapis. And then they switched Mother Isis to the Virgin Mary. And they call her Theotokos. Theotokos means mother of God. Now, this was at the Council of Ephesus. This was like the third council meeting, I think. The Council of Ephesus. Now, this is when they got the Trinity away from what was the original African Trinity. Now they got the Father, who is still Osiris, but now they got the Greek god Serapis and his mother, the Virgin Mary. Now, she has to be a virgin for a couple reasons. For one, this is a homosexual culture. For two, they are stealing a framework that people are already familiar with because the Greeks used it and the Egyptians used it already, which is the Horus story. Horus, Osiris, and Isis. Now, it's not necessarily a virgin birth, but it's they didn't basically Osiris' brother Set chopped him up into a bunch of pieces, 13 pieces. And she went and got the phallus and used it on herself to impregnate herself. And then his son was born named Horus, and the son was born to get revenge for the father. So essentially, it's kind of a virgin birth story. It's a story without conception. And so now people can relate to that framework. So when the Romans come with a similar story, and now keep in mind, the original people of this belief system have been enslaved. So now this is all of the conquerors discussing how to frame the old belief system into a new one. Because now, if we can get this into a framework that people are familiar with, we can rule under it. This is all about ruling people. These people, if God had anything to do with any of these religions, why is it so much slavery, brutality, pedophilia? Why is all of this stuff going on with every religion? Every religion is saturated with pedophilia. Why? Every religion all got raped all through their documentation. All of them got God having illicit sex. Actual God coming into women and getting them pregnant in the middle of the night. That's creepy. If anybody but God was doing it, you call him a rapist. But God get to creep through women's windows in the middle of the night and get them pregnant while they land in the bed with their husband. And then that same God gets to make some rules saying, don't covet another man's wife. So I can't lust over another man's wife, but you can climb into the window and get her pregnant. All you got to do is look at, it says, there's a scripture said, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. That's because Caesar was in power. So isn't that coincidental that Jesus would say, hey, let Caesar do what he do? Why would Jesus say that? Why would you get somebody so passive in the middle? Now, we'll fast forward to Dr. King. We got somebody in the middle of straight brutality that got us singing We Shall Overcome and I Love You and all that shit. And what happened? He was a fucking traitor. And 60 years after his death, we're just as fucked up as we was on the eve of when they killed his ass. Now, y'all might think because y'all get to listen to more rap music and there's more booty shorts, twerk videos, and 28-inch rims, maybe you think we're better off, but I don't know. It's a bigger plantation, still slaves. The technology, the plantation got fancy. They gave you, well, just like prisons, and you can play video games in prison now. They ain't gonna pop the gate, but you can play the latest PlayStation 700 if the fuck you want to. You can do that all day. You can't go home. You can't do nothing about the homosexuals that keep making out in front of your cell, but you can play the PlayStation 17 all day. They took education out of the prison system, but they put video game systems in. So you just got to look at what's happening, and it'll tell you everything. Now you got a religion that its savior in the middle of a war is coming to tell the people, hey, just relax and be peaceful. Jesus is running around preaching, just be peaceful. The scriptures is saying, and Jesus is saying, obey your government as you would God. We're in the heart of a war. These people have invaded our lands and they are robbing, raping, and pillaging and slaughtering everything. And then I step up to the podium and tell y'all, hey, listen, give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar. The problem is we need to just start obeying them like we would obey God. Why are we giving them such a hard time? We need more love. Are you fucking kidding me? Imagine if the Panthers had said that shit, came out. What if the Panthers had came out talking about we just need to love them more? That shit wouldn't have fly. Look how they was doing us. The Panthers came through with a message that said we got to fight back, and look what they're doing. You know why? Because almost every real revolutionary leader we ever had, that's the only thing you can. The only thing a revolutionary's job is to come through and motivate the people to fight back, not motivate them to give up and pray. So this is illogical unless the only person that benefits from Jesus' teachings was the establishment. This non-violent approach. If you have a slave, it's okay to beat him, don't kill him. The Romans had slaves. And most of the slaves was the people, the oppressed, the people that this information is for. So we always see the poor people are always the followers of the religion. The religion is always controlled by the establishment who has everything. It's always been that way. And so now, within the framework of this religion, it's telling you, the people who are being invaded, God is telling you, this is really came from God. And God's telling the people who are being invaded, it's okay for him to beat you as long as he don't kill you. Because remember, the slaves get to read the scripture just like the slave master. So we always talk about, why would God tell the slave master it's okay to beat your slave as long as you don't kill him? That's one side of it. The other side of it is, why would God tell his chosen people? Because remember, this book is for God's chosen people. That's who the scriptures is for. Why would God tell his chosen people? I know them people be beating the shit out you, but I don't mind as long as they don't kill you. Matter of fact, it's good for them to beat you as long as they don't kill you. And I want you to start obeying them like you obey me. And stop trying to hold things to you that belong to them. Whatever belongs to them, you should readily make sure they have it. What the fuck is going on? This guy is supposed to be trying to get his people from, keep in mind, he freed the Hebrews. This is the whole thing, is to get the Hebrews to the promised land. And then they gave you a story about you broke the covenant, so now you're being punished. And your planet's been supposed to last for 400 years in a foreign land. Okay. It's 5 years after the 400 years. I don't see none of you Negroes talking about, do you know what y'all talking about? This is what y'all talking about. Y'all talking about we need more financial freedom. We need group economics. We got to start joining the market. We got to start buying black. We got to stop listening to this, that, and we got to start loving each other again. Then what we talk about? We talk about what we need to start back doing so that we can like each other. Do that sound like a people on the cusp of getting highly favored by God and getting the planet back? Our basis of conversation is we need to learn how to like each other again. We just that far. We just trying to figure out how to like each other again. Not love, like. We trying to coach each other on how the black man and the black woman could actually be in the same room and stop calling each other baby mama and baby daddy. We at the level where 5 years ago, God was supposed to liberate us. 5 years later, the number one rapper right now is Sexy Red. And she just took a picture with her baby daddy face in her booty. Talking about, I'm sorry if my booty stank. This is the highlight of our fucking culture. And you can see that same degenerate ass behavior with the motherfucking elite of the Romans. So y'all sitting around with your Rolexes on and you got nice whips, you got nice cars, you got big chains, and you living your life and you feel like you doing something different. What you is an undercover fucking Roman. Because all of the fancy people that was all good and doing all the right shit, and then on the late night, they did what y'all did. Y'all go to the strip club. They went to the house of Battier. Battier got naked women walking from here to there. And boys too. Whatever you floats your boat. Okay, well, you're going to see that same thing in the strip club. They going to get somebody going to be in the corner looking at whatever sexual preference they got, talking business. You're going to see the same thing in the house of Battier. They're going to be looking at perversion, talking business about the Senate. It's the same fucking thing. That's why they named the law of the land after the guys who put y'all in a position to live this way and think this way. And still, ever since Constantine made that decision, the number one religion on this planet has been Christianity. So if the number one religion on the planet is Christianity, and the number one religious figure on the planet is the Pope, how the fuck are we still trying to convince ourselves that Rome actually fell? When we could look outside every day and see everything that was in Rome, right? They had chariot races. We got NASCAR. It's the exact same shit. You wanted to be elite. You had to click in with the right people and join one of them little secret societies to advance. You do it here. You join one of them little secret societies. You learn the truth and you advance. Religion, understand. There's no way a government would have a religion around that it couldn't control or that it didn't have control of. Do you know how powerful religion is? To have religion be the apex of my society and I don't control it, it would be suicide. Because then at any moment, any religious figure, if I let that religion get so big as Christianity and I don't control it, at any moment that religious figure could come out, the Pope could come out and say, do you understand what kind of power he got? If the Pope was to come out, stand on a podium and say, it's true. There's nothing since the beginning of time. This has been all pedophilia. He would literally change the trajectory of the planet with that one statement. If the Pope was to come out and say slavery was bad, Anything the Pope was to come out and endorse, it becomes law. Because look what just happened. He came out and said, even though the Bible comes from God, and according to God, men shouldn't lay with men, Big Pope said that ain't true. There's no reason why two men shouldn't be allowed to boink each other and still love Jesus. Just that simple. The end. And we don't even take in consideration that he liked little boys, so this puts him closer to the goal. Him and all of these other motherfucking weirdos that like little boys. Because it ain't that big a difference between 16 and 18. So if two men is allowed to be together publicly and can get married and all of this shit, then if I can get them at 16 and just keep them for 2 years, I'm not doing anything wrong anymore. Do y'all understand that there's a whole movement in this country and they've already done it in certain states to get rid of the legal age of union because they're about to make pedophilia legal. I'm telling y'all now, in the next 10 years, the age limit of when people can be together is going to be drastically lower because they're saying this is you shouldn't be faulted for your sexuality. They got whole sites and whole websites about this shit. This is why they're pushing in the transgender thing so much. She's got to look at what the world's doing. It ain't about good or bad, my opinion, right or wrong, none of that. Just look at what the world's doing. Look at history. And then you start to see a pattern. Okay? We're saying, now, let's just play advocate and go with my theory. I've been showing you all the different connections between the Greco-Roman world and our modern day world. Now, the last straw was this. The number one thing on this planet is pedophilia. Number one thing in America is pedophilia. The only difference is in Rome, they admitted it. In Rome, they had no problem admitting it. So they're trying to push to a society where you can admit it again. Because everything that was deemed wrong, they have made right. Remember, they took strip clubs and put it to the forefront of our society. Do you know how distasteful that used to be looked at? You used to have to creep into a strip club and didn't tell nobody you was there. And then they had women and wives that had whole movements against strippers. And now remember, they had this whole thing where prostitution and pimping was wrong. Then in the 2000s, every other song was a pimp song. They started making out all of these shows about pimping. They started showing you Don Juan and the Players Ball. Everything turned into pimping. So society embraced the pimps, which means they embraced the hoes. And then in every video, booty bouncing, twerking, popping, blah. And see, this was a scheme because this was, okay, we're going to show you the pimp culture. Then we're going to say, for all of you ladies that want to get away from them harmful pimps, stop letting them pimps pimp you and put you out there going to the club with the white guy. So then you go to the strip club. Y'all didn't understand this move had been done before. When originally, because they used to rape the girls and take everything from them. So then the pimps got into play to protect the girls. And then the pimps got corrupted and became abusive and all this type of shit. So now what they did was they played the two off of each other. They create this culture. Then they say, okay, well, we're going to take the pimping off the streets. And they made it so the pimps can only pimp during certain times. You can only be out there during this time and this time. Any other time, we're getting you a ticket and we're taking your girls. So then that was like an unsaid deal between the police and the pimps. You could only pimp during this time frame. Now, but what they was doing was, while they had the streets closed down, they were setting up cat houses. And so then it got to on the days when it's closed down and you can't be out here, you might well put your girl in one of these cat houses or you ain't gonna be able to make no money. So then the pimps had to concede to taking their girls and putting them off in the house. And now what this is it's slowly cutting the pimp out the game. So now we got access to the girl. And then off of that, now they did it again with this culture. They big up the pimp shit in the early 2000s. And then the pimp shit got popular. Then they say, hey, stop letting them guys take your money. Here's what we're going to do. They open up the strip club world. So then you seen the downslide of all of the pimp shit, and now everything is twerking and stripping it everywhere. And then every video, everybody stopped. I don't know what you heard about me. I'm a PIMP. That was every video. Like a pimp. My pimp juice. Everything was pimp. And then it went from pimp to twerking. And then you see every video, the queen in there, her booty bouncing over, just wiggling her cheeks. And that turned into every rapper, every video is strip club scene. And then the whole society turned into the number one hangout was the strip club. This is a progressive societal engineering, to get us to look, think, and behave a certain way. And all of this is done under the flag of a Christian nation. Why does a Christian nation have brothels and strip clubs in the first place? This is all the things we're not thinking about. The same people that built the Christian nation is the same people that created crack. And like my mama said, now the men twerking too. Why are the men twerking too? Because in ancient Rome, homosexuality was not a big deal. So they're trying to bring it back to that, to where it's nothing for you to see two men publicly being nasty. And that's why they got it. They got a whole pride festival where you get to walk down the street with your swipe out, with your nipples out, with your vagina out. You could be ass naked and take a patch and put it over your vagina and two patches over your nipples and just walk down. I seen it. You got men ass naked with a thong on with an elephant trunk for the front part. And that's the only thing he got on, with cowboy boots and a guitar. This is ancient Rome. The same way that those people were behaving, you could see Black America acting the exact same way 5 nights a week, down there anywhere you go. And as far as the end of the world, they can't end the world. They now they might try to start it over again, but they definitely can't end it. But what I just want us to see is that we frequently think we doing our own thing, and the only thing we really be doing is mimicking other people's behaviors and customs and cultures. And now we so far into it, we can't even see that they got us. We will be on we're going to Misinformation Nation on Clubhouse. We'll be there. It's an annual thing here in Wisconsin. They ride bikes around there. They sure do. And then people look so disgusting. Oh my goodness. I was like, people is so, it'd be like one attractive person and 97 fat people. Like, what the fuck is y'all? Whoa, boy. I seen them one year. I can't unsee it. But it's crazy how they built this culture on the back of stealing other cultures, and they put it in place so long that it's just really hard for us to see what we're really dealing with. I know some of y'all just came in, but we've been going in. We're going to Clubhouse next at 8:30. So I will be on. We'll be in the Misinformation Nation room in Clubhouse, If y'all got Clubhouse, come tap in and let's finish the discussion. We like to take the discussion on Tuesdays to Clubhouse, so that way it ain't just me talking. When we get on Clubhouse, I can get y'all feedback and y'all input, and we can do it as a family, because it's a lot of deep history in here that we really need to know. And I'm gonna double back, and we're gonna deal with Africa and Egypt, because I thought about it. Like, you always do these other stuff, you never really break down Africa. People so scared of Africa. I can't really gain y'all interest in Africa until I show y'all what they did to us. So I'm hoping once I show y'all what they did to us, then a lot of y'all will want to double back. It's the end of the fucking world. Nah, it ain't the end of the world. That we can't be naive enough to believe that they could actually tear down something that God created. Please, these people can't tear shit down. They can't end nothing. This is a cycle, and it'll pass. But realistically, it's damage control. Everything you see on this planet is damage control. We'll just look at it that way. Damage control. They're not really winning, and we need to understand this is not the only planet we're fighting them on. But I could guarantee you this is the only planet where it looks like they're winning on. The other planets where they pulling this shit at, they're hog tied with their ass whoop. That's why they're raising such a fuss here. So either way it go, we just got to know the All-Father's got a plan way bigger than this planet. This planet is a baby. It's not very old, and it's not very big. It's way bigger than they're telling you. But in relation to the other things going on outside of this planet, this is just a little teensy bit of what's really cracking. And I can promise y'all, they're not looking so well in other places. I guarantee you. So that's what it is with that. I appreciate everybody for rocking with me tonight. Join us on Clubhouse. That's where we headed. We'll be there at 8:30 in the Misinformation Nation room. Knowledge is the only real power. Information is the only real currency. But the route to both is the route to divinity. I love y'all. I'm gone.